about it yesterday, Sam. It was a hard job for him to come into. There was certainly a section of the Everton fans weren't having him for the word go, and I think the defeat at Norwich was probably the final straw, mate.
Well, I think that it wasn't just Norwich. It was the previous, 1 win in 11 in the league, was it?
I think it was 12,
12, I think that we all know as managers, or certainly us experienced managers like Rafa and Carlo Ancelotti, myself, who have been the last 3 managers, that you can't go on a run like that at a club like Everton and expect to survive, no matter whose fault it is, whether it's your fault, the board's fault, the players' fault. You take the can, you carry the can, and you accept that when you take the job. And I think that in this case, a change had to be made when you lose to the bottom club, or one of the bottom clubs in the league, and you, by all accounts, listening to it, losing convincingly. And I think that's the sad thing. Like, the players seem to have lost direction in the tactics on what they're trying to do. And I know injuries play a part in everybody's future as a manager when you've got your best players out injured, which was the case. But you've still got to try and scrap results somehow. And unfortunately, Rafa couldn't do that. And like I said, Everton have had 2 of the biggest managers around, Carlo Ancelotti and Rafa, and neither of them been successful, unfortunately.
In terms of the investment that they've made and the recruitment they've made, Sam, they've spent a lot of money. This is since 2016. If you have a look in the Sun today, page 52 details all the signings and the buys that Everton have made under Farhad Moshiri, and they've spent £615.7 million, which is a lot of money, and that's not even including add-ons, not including loan deals. Is there a problem?
Yeah, Laura, but you got to take in the sales.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to take in the sales.
Yeah, of course. But when you look at those,
have they sold over £300 million of the talent? I don't know, but to balance it off without going too far, it's a huge amount of money to buy players and not get it right. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
That's the essence of the question. Yeah. Is the recruitment good enough at Everton?
Well, it constantly changes. I think that's the problem. I mean, when I was there, I felt the stable group with Steve Walsh and his gang behind the scenes would have been and was good enough to carry on. And I think that that was a key element of my experience, that the group and the squad behind the main team and the manager in recruitment terms was significantly all over the world, in fact, in terms of what it wanted to do. Whether it could actually get what it wanted was another matter, because if you look at Everton and you say to yourself, well, what have they really spent? Well, they've never really gone into the big money. They spent big money, but they never went into the big money for players. I think it was 40 million for Sigurdsson is the highest they paid, when 250 million was the transfer, or the biggest transfer in and around that time. So when you're spending your money, you've got to be able to spend your money big. And when you're spending it big, you've got to spend it on the players that are right for Everton. And those players that are right for Everton, because of the money situation, were in the 60s and 70 million pounds. I mean, that not the 40 million. And that's the problem, because you buy a lot of players of a similar quality, and I think that's been one of Everton's problems, certainly over the last few years. And of course, changing managers like myself just doesn't work. It doesn't happen. Nobody had more than 2 seasons since Roberto Martinez. So is it 5 managers since then, and that brings up instability to the players, change of staff. And the change with recruitment policies, and every manager wants to try, and you don't always get what you want, and you're not always in charge of buying all the players now. That's certainly the case, but you have to have an influence in what players you buy, and of course there's varying opinions from myself, Carlo Ancelotti, Rafa. And of course, whoever comes in next, what's the situation with that one? And I think that Duncan Ferguson at the moment, who's got massive experience now, I worked with him brilliantly in the time I was there. He's a stable character to put in charge, and I did a good job last time until they find the right person to take the job, but also give Duncan enough courage that if he does the job correctly, then he's not just a stopgap again and overlooked this time.
Well, that was going to be my question to you, Sam, right? Because there's a lot of the Everton fans clearly and understandably hold Duncan in very, very high regard, and he knows, just how much the club means to him. And there are a lot of them talking about the possibility of Duncan taking the reins again in a caretaker fashion. However, that was going to be my question to you. Do you believe he's got the potential and the ability to take the job full time?
Oh, absolutely. I think that he's seen so many managers come through the door since Moisey, Ali.
Yep.
He's learned from all those managers. Now, the only question is can you handle the pressure? As a manager that's only had a small experience in managing, when the full burden of pressure comes on top of you, and it comes on your shoulders when you're in charge of such a big club like Everton, with the expectation of the fans and everybody else and the media. Caretaker's fine, but then if it's full time, you've got to be able to cope with that pressure. And I think that his decisions to employ the people to help him along the way, if he gets the job full time, which I think he deserves, will be crucial to him and crucial to the future at Everton Football Club. And then, of course, crucial to how he sets the football club up with the board and how the recruitment policy then runs. Because until they get the recruitment policy right, the club is not going to get into that new stadium with the team that's going to grace it, I think. And, the players have to take huge responsibility that are there for the position that they're in. You can't keep blaming the manager all the time, but at the end of the day, the manager has to carry the can. We accept that, but players need to look at themselves and give a lot more than they're giving at the moment. And hopefully Duncan can get that out of them, given the chance.
What was it like in your experience at Everton working under Farhad Moshiri?
Oh, Farhad's no problem. I don't think that Farhad's been learning as time goes on. And of course, when you're new into the game as an owner, you have to trust people who are at the club and running the club at that moment in time. I think that he's got to look at the whole situation from top to bottom, as it's his responsibility. But, he has done nothing but support the club. He supported the club financially more than any owner of Everton Football Club has ever done in its entire history. The sad thing for him is he is responsible because he's the top man. He's the head of the board there. Of course, those alongside him have to accept some responsibility as well and make sure that they try and get it right and all pull in the same direction. I think Everton needs everybody from top to bottom to pull in the same direction. I personally don't think that's the case. That needs to be sorted out as well. Yeah.
I have to ask you the obligatory biannual hypothetical question of if they did come knocking, would you ever go back? Is it a club that you would go back to?
If they needed me to help them out or they felt they needed to help them out, yes, I would. I'd help them out if they wanted to. I wouldn't say that would be a long-term effect because I'm not sure that would be right for Everton and for me. But, on the basis that the first time round, I felt I'd done all I could do to secure the job on a long-term basis. I actually put the plans in place at that particular time. Well, unfortunately, I didn't want to go down that route, but putting the club back in a position of strength, I thought at the time, finishing 8th from the position that we're in was pretty good managing that squad of players at the time. But now I think it's Duncan's time, and I think he's ready. And if I can help Duncan in any way, shape, or form, I'd do that because I think he's a fantastic guy, and I think he's Everton through and through. And maybe that's what the club needs at the moment.
Yeah. Sam, it's wonderful to have you on as always.
Have a good day, mate. Good to see you.
All the best. Thank you very much. Happy New Year.
You too, mate.
Happy New Year.